Hey guys, Chris here with Work2Game, and today I'd like to talk a little bit more about Final Fantasy on Mac. Now, I put out a guide a long time ago when I was primarily a Mac player and everything was running fine. But as raid content's become more accessible and as the game has changed, it's time to update my opinion. So, it ran fine before. It ran great, when we got it, for heaven's word, and then actually over time, I was glad that I got the additional RAM. But ultimately what they've done is Square Enix has just done a port of their Windows version onto Mac. And the problem with that is that it's not a pure Unix version. So like Blizzard games run great on Mac because they're programmed for running in that environment. But this game is really more of a cheap knockoff. Like we'll just trim the corners and just kind of fit it. And where that really became noticeable is after they dropped PS3 support. Once they dropped PS3 support, the game got more beautiful, more aggressive, right? Because they now assumed that the minimum resources from every group got higher. The problem with that is that the port version for Mac actually doesn't take advantage of my full resources. My computer is significantly more powerful than what it's pulling. And so what that means is for Stormblood, I see extremely suffered frame rate in the very high level content. So if you're saying, you know what, I travel a lot on business, I have a Mac laptop, I'd like to know if I could have it for gathering or something like that. I still own a Mac version of Stormblood, I could still do it for that. But the moment I want to do something like stream, or the moment I want to be in an environment where I'm already kind of limited maybe on bandwidth, so any additional lag from my machine is really going to stand out, or I want to screen capture, so any footage I share with you guys that's from my Mac, which is why I'm not showing gameplay footage right now, because it's not a good reflection of how fast it runs. It just bogs it down even further. I don't understand. It runs so much worse than the previous expansion did. And so I would have to say, honestly, for Stormblood, if you want to own a second copy, if you just want to throw Square Enix the money, go for it. But I would hold off. I would play on PlayStation if possible. I would play on Windows if possible. This is all before we even have the conversation of whether or not we should talk about damage meters, and if we do, Mac doesn't have them. So if you ever want to even go down that road, I do not use damage meters, whether or not I think people should, because I am a PlayStation and Mac owner, and they just don't run on those platforms. So it's not even a temptation or an option. It's like telling me that I should try to avoid speeding tickets in a country I've never been to. I just can't get one. So I really wanted to update this and say that I would hold off on Mac until they can come out with a proper version. Now, the beautiful things about it running on Mac is that because it's not using all my resources, other things like Adobe and stuff run fine. So if I want to just have it in the corner because I'm waiting for one of the old sightseeing things to check on the time of day while I edit or while I do work, because I work from my computer quite a bit, I can do work and I can have it up right there. And so, like I said, if it's this secondary platform, like playing on PSP, where it's just for a certain aspect of the game that is not a competitive or extremely frame rate based part of the game, yes, I can check auctions perfectly fine. Yes, I can gather perfectly fine. I can go do sightseeing perfectly fine. Some of the bigger cities get a little hairy, especially when people come in and do all that, like, I'm going to cast Flare 100 times. So, yes, do I think there's value for it? Absolutely. If it was no cost, would I download it every single time? Absolutely. On every single one of my Macs, I would have it. But it's not free. And so you have to question, Brian and I joke a lot about this kind of dollar per hour thing. So if you pay $60, I need to get $60 of enjoyment out of that title. And does it give me $60 of content that owning it for PlayStation and being able to play on my PSP does? That's close. That's really close, and it's a lot closer than I'd like it to be, especially because over 2017, while there have been some really great games, there haven't been an enormous number of great games, and so a lot of these games are down around that like 10 cents per hour, and so it's really hard to want to opt myself in for something that probably is just $1 an hour. I probably use it 60 times in a year. So hopefully that helps. Hopefully that helps kind of alleviate. I know I was starting to see some comment stuff on my old video that's like, hey, you're not really talking about this because I tried it and it's not that great. And so I've tried to get out in front of that in the comments section, and I will be tagging this in the description of that so that anybody that kind of sees that, I feel that I touch on some valid points there, and I think over the history of Square Enix, it's absolutely awesome that they support Mac. The more platforms, the better. I'd love to see them come to things like we joke about the Switch and just any platform that they can come to, and that is absolutely their attitude. So if you guys have comments, if you have experiences, if you found a way on Mac that it runs better without trying to just go to boot camp and get the Windows version, if you found something that makes it work, definitely let me know in the comments section below, because right now I'm not using it, because the last and final thing is if you play on multiple platforms, your macros don't carry over. Your UI doesn't carry over. And so it's really hard to have more than one primary platform unless it's just checking auctions, doing gathering, maybe doing a seasonal event while you're out of town on your laptop. It's really hard to make sure that they're both exactly the way you want it. So having more than one platform is not ideal at this time. So thank you guys. Sorry I don't have better news. My name's Chris with Work to Game. And I love you Mac users just the same. I'll see you next time.
Hey, it's me. I'm in Chris's office. He doesn't know it, but we've got other videos for you to check out right here. And we've got the vlog down there in the corner. Plus, we've got some contact information, and you can totally subscribe to the channel that way as well. So we hope you do. We hope to see you in our next video. But until then, take care.